Good afternoon or morning, wherever you are, gearheads. We just watched Lando Norris win the biggest race of his career, the Monaco Grand Prix.
Yeah, and it wasn't just, a boyhood dream, which it was. There's so much more to it than that, in that the timing with starting this race 4-1 down and really being kind of taken to the cleaners by Piastri in the last few races. I said to you in the middle of the race, this is such an important race for Lando. And the truth is, I know it's skewed to say this, but when you win at Monaco, it doesn't matter where you are in the championship. I remember when Olivier Panis won it, and everybody was like, well, where did Panis come from? And, you beat this track. You don't worry about it. And we'll talk about the new rules and whether we agree with it or not. We put a poll out. But winning at Monaco and holding on for that hour and a half is real metal and shows you that you are one of the greats. And he just did today.
Yeah, and let's not forget, look, we'll talk about, like you said, the rules. But yesterday, Lando put in the lap. He also put in a lap, the very last lap of the race. But he put in the fast lap yesterday to beat Charles Leclerc to the pole, which Charles had been all weekend long.
Yeah, every session. Fast.
And it's Charles Leclerc, maybe the best qualifier in the sport.
In the sport, yeah.
And
he would have won had he got
that's right
1/10, 100th quicker. He would have won the race with Leclerc for the same reason. I mean, I'm just sort of guessing. But
this is a huge win for Lando Norris because not only did he do what he did yesterday and held on today, a lot of pressure today, right?
Oh, huge.
And he's now within 2 points of Oscar Piastri
imagine
for the championship.
Yeah, imagine the difference. I mean, let's say that lockup at Sandoval, right, had not gone right.
Yeah.
And he'd gone straight on, which his teammate did the day before.
On turn one, lap one.
Yeah, turn one. That would have been a gap of 13 points extended to over 20, right?
Yep.
So that's why I say it was so important because I know there's a long way to go yet, but this will be a pivotal moment in the overall title chase.
Yeah, well, we got a long way to go, but let's bask in this because it is the championship is tightened up, and Lando's got his mojo back, and now the pressure's on Zak Brown and team to how do you manage this, right? And they've been doing a pretty good job. But let's go back to the start of the race. You said it. Lando had a huge lockup in turn one there because
he's lucky to get away with that.
He was very lucky. In fact, he was lucky to be able to continue to drive the car without huge vibrations and everything else.
And if you remember, in free practice 2, Piastri did exactly the same thing and locked up and went straight on.
Yeah, well, it was a very, very, very interesting race, and I can't wait to talk about this dual pit stop requirement because I just think it's interesting. But I hear Chris's mic lighting up. The Chris Medland out in Monaco. What do you think, my friend?
Kind of. I can't tell.
I like that.
That's fair enough.
I like it.
God, I wish you had, be more decisive like your wife.
Yeah, I know, right? Although she picked the wrong winner. But it felt like that there was more tension, definitely, more jeopardy, more uncertainty until the second round of pit stops had shaken out for those at the front. Because obviously, an incident at the wrong time there could catch anyone out or a slow stop. But once that had happened, really, you just had, obviously, Max lapping, trying to hope something would happen, but his pace wasn't good enough to keep him clear of Piastri. So he was guaranteed fourth, really, whatever happened. And you just still, that added a little bit of intrigue with that top three. I liked seeing them run nose to tail and Charles trying to put pressure on, but it just felt like you still kind of got the same type of Monaco outcome. It just was a slight improvement with the fact stuff could have gone wrong earlier. But yeah, I think that's probably the worst case scenario in many ways of the way that regulation could have played out. So in that sense, it didn't make it any worse, did it? But it just wasn't quite the chaos that some had been predicting.
Yeah, and you know what, Chris? I've been reading lots and lots of comments. I before I did that, though, I was telling Jonathan, we put out a poll that says, do you like the stop? Yeah, do you like the mandatory pit stops too? And I said yes, no, or yes with tweaks. And before I did it, I like it because last night I went back and watched last year's race. And last year's race started with a huge crash in the first lap, followed by a 40-minute delay, followed by nothing. I remember I drag. When you're watching a video, you can drag the bar. I watch. From the moment we restarted
I've been
the
dragged
race,
from a bar.
Sorry, guys, you have to repeat that. I'm getting moved along by security for some reason.
Jonathan's talking about being dragged from a bar. I'm saying I watched the race, rewatched the race from last year, and nothing happened for the last hour. Literally, nothing happened.
But it's a show about nothing.
Well, there's that. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No, I know what you mean.
But there,
I'm in the camp. Sorry, I've been ruining your good sentences. I apologize.
That's all right.
But I agree with you. But I'm in the positive camp. But I'm in the with tweaks. So I'm 3.
Okay, so the
tweaks I think would be necessary would be tires.
Yeah, that's a good one too. The poll right now it's actually tightened up a little bit. It's about 60-40, no being 63%, and the rest of it makes up yes or yes with tweaks.
What I don't like is what James Vowell said, which is this is not how I like to go racing on a Sunday. When basically Sainz was backing up the field, then Albon was backing up the field, Lawson did it at the opener, and then Verstappen did it. And like I said, we saw an F2 race similar to that with a penalty jeopardy involved. Like you say, it depends whether you want to bore.
How do you like your boring?
Yeah. What did that one guy say?
Oh yeah, there was a comment earlier. It was basically he was like, I can't remember what else. I'll see if I can find it. But
it's just a boring race differently or something.
Yeah, it's just a different kind of boring, but
with 2 stops.
but honestly, I was going to run to the restroom right at the end of the race.
No, it was good.
And I thought, well, wait a minute, what's going to happen? Is Max going to pit? Is he going to take a penalty?
I tell you what if Bortoletto had smashed into the wall on the last lap and Verstappen's taken his pit stop?
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. Well,
I think that's a good summary, to be honest. Let's be honest. It's very hard to create something here in Monaco.
Yeah.
And in some ways, I don't want to lose. Because we have 24 races, they're all kind of slightly different, some more different than others.
Exactly.
This is very different, where it's about Saturday, isn't it? And if you lost that in some ways,
yeah,
I think you'd lose a little bit of magic of this place. I do appreciate that people have just sat through 2 hours of that going, yeah, but that was boring. I get that argument, but we've got another race next weekend. We had one last weekend that was great, and it's just a different challenge for the drivers. And I still maintain that hour of qualifying from yesterday is the best hour of qualifying we get all year long. So
I agree.
It does come with that plus point.
I still think we should do an extra qualifying session Sunday morning where everybody gets to drive the same car, whichever the pole car is.
Yeah, I love that. All right, so let's talk about what we saw. I mean, obviously, we were right before you jumped on, Chris. We were talking about the big lockup that Lando had, and that was lucky that he did not end up with a much worse outcome from that. Bortoletto crashed out, had contact with Antonelli,
which we reckon was fair in the end because Antonelli just jumped.
Yeah,
chose his moment and
of course the big crash with Gasly. He said that Tsunoda moved, right? What do you say, Greeny?
No, not really. I don't agree with that. I think I don't really think that Tsunoda did anything wrong, in my opinion.
Okay. What about you, Chris?
I'm trying to remember what the incident was. Sorry, I was looking around to try and see.
Oh,
Gasly hitting the back of Tsunoda.
Sorry. Yes, that was all on Pierre. I think that might well have been. He said he had no brakes, and I don't know if that was just out of embarrassment for the incident and just being caught out, or if he actually had a problem.
No, he said it happened. Yeah, the brake problem happened after the incident. He said.
Oh no! I mean, no, I can't believe that's what he meant because
no, it's the opposite, Greeny. He said it was
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So, but
okay.
So I did.
He had a brake problem. That's why he hit Tsunoda.
Yeah,
I got you.
Exactly, it's what he was saying. But I did find it interesting that I was watching and go, wait a minute, why are they putting a front wing on that car? There's no way it's going to get back. And then I realized they just did that so they could move the car. I thought that was interesting.
The only thing I didn't like was Albon's rather erratic action with the Mercedes, because certainly in the case of Antonelli, that was impeding. He got to the middle of the track, he braked, earlier than he should have done, and Antonelli almost went into the back of him, and that would have ruined the entire race, never mind their 2 races. So, I mean, he was doing it tactically. I get it, but it's iffy.
So, Chris, give us your eyes and ears.
It's what the two stops created, isn't it? The two stoppers created the need for teams to do that, and maybe with a slightly more jumbled up grid in future, if we get one, you won't be able to do that so much because you can't influence just your teammates' race. You'll be helping others, which actually I thought is what Liam Lawson was doing.
Yeah,
when he backed up that really helped Hadjar out. And Hadjar, by the way, huge grin on his face when he walked past me just now. Going to try and grab a word with him when he's standing in the TV pen. What a result for him in fifth. But yeah, when Lawson backed up to allow Hadjar to make his pit stops, obviously Ocon took advantage of that. So did Hamilton and got ahead of both, which was smart from Ferrari, I think. But you just felt like, okay, that's Lawson sacrificing his race, but he wasn't. He was still able to get himself solid points in 8th. His first points of the season as well, I must add, which will be a big relief for him.
Yeah, big time.
John, you were going to say about eyes and ears. I am currently down at the very small area that is the broadcast pen, and you've got a bank of TV cameras that are interviewing all the drivers under shade. And then behind that, they've put up these kind of like gazebos from the Automobile Club de Monaco. I didn't go for the French accent there. And that's keeping the shade over the print journalists. So then in a bank of, 2 or 3 deep, trying to just get quotes out of the drivers that come through that line. And then when they leave there, the drivers will go elsewhere. And my challenge is to work out whether they're going to turn right and walk out back towards Raskas and head towards the pit lane, or if they're going to turn left and walk along the front of the harbour to their hospitality units. And if it's the first one, I might not be able to get a word with them. If it's the second, I might.
You see, even our top reporter has a Monaco strategy.
That's right. Monaco is all about strategy now.
This is not Miami where he just flits around the artificial grass and see who comes along.
Hey, let's talk about that last lap of Lando Norris's. Greeny, you were saying how you excited about the pace of it.
Yeah, I mean, he was a second quicker than anybody else on the day. Now, okay, empty fuel, tires, well, they're probably going off, but they were the hard tires. But still, I mean, when you can get the pole position, win the race, and get the fastest lap on the last lap, you sleep pretty well that night.
Yeah. Let's see. I know who else is going to be sleeping well is the Racing Bulls team.
Oh, fantastic weekend. Laurent Mekies, he spoke to Chris before the race, and it pretty much panned out as he suggested to Chris.
I mean, huge points. Isaac Hadjar finishing 6th and Lawson finishing 8th. His first points
of
ever.
Yep.
Or not ever.
Not ever. No, this season.
This season, yeah.
Yeah, important ones though. I've got them in my sight. So whether I actually get to them, I don't know. But both of them are targets of mine. And so is Laurent Mekies again. Actually, we might have ruined it slightly. We got everyone pre-race that went on to have the results that they were hoping for, and then we've got to come back and go to them and kind of say, okay, so that went as planned, did it? But Zak Brown will be a very happy man. That's one of 2 ticked off, isn't it, for McLaren? Mekies, I think, I don't know if he'll be even happier, actually, because, of course, with Alonso out the way, that was an extra place for Lawson. And just the way that their strategy was executed, they did it early. They got both stops out the way early, and it worked.
Yeah.
How about this, Chris? How about buy a very expensive bottle of whiskey, head back to Zak's hotel, and we'll do play-by-play for him watching the 500.
As fun as that would be, sadly, I have a lot of writing that needs doing.
And
then I have to drive a car to the airport at 3 a.m. tomorrow morning. So it's
not all glamour, is it?
Whiskey part, but no, I'll be keeping an eye on the 500 though in the media centre, and just jealous. But as you mentioned, actually, with videos of Zak when he was a kid, he's worked hard to get to where he is. He's climbed to the top, and it's taken a long time to get there, hasn't it? It's also taken McLaren a long time to get to this point. That win for Lando is his first, or McLaren's first victory in 17 years here. 2008, Lewis Hamilton.
That's
the last
incredible.
One.
Wow.
Yeah, every time I think of McLaren's rise, I think of the last time I went to Silverstone and I interviewed both Zak and sadly, man passed away. Who was the leader of McLaren at the time?
Was it Mansour OJ?
No, sorry. The former driver that died a few years ago.
I don't know.
American.
Oh, Gilles de Ferran?
Sorry, Gilles de Ferran.
Yes, of course.
And I remember sitting down with them and going, what do we do, guys? How do you turn this round? And I felt bad at the time because I was in the McLaren hospitality, but it just always takes me back to that lowest of lows. They were 10th in the championship or 9th, I can't remember, but they were nowhere.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, you just said something. You said Zak Brown, he's made it to the top, right? But I would now argue that Zak Brown maybe the most, or one of the most for sure, influential people in motorsport right now.
He's right behind Penske and Chip.
Yeah. And
in terms of his, pies and fingers in pies.
Well, yeah, and his tactics have led to success. I mean,
well,
else?
I actually think I'm going to put the credit with Stella, to be honest.
Okay.
Because
who hired him?
Well, don't get me wrong, but the genius is Stella.
Okay, I'm not going to argue with that. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, well, I agree on both fronts. I think that Zak identified that as he was the right guy to lead the team instead of Andreas Seidel, who was in position at that point. And he's done a great job at it. He's really thrived. And you can see the way that McLaren rally around and work together, that he's exactly the right man as team principal. But then Zak still takes some of the pressure off him by doing some of the media stuff, which Andrea can do and does well when he speaks, but doesn't really want to do too much of. I agree on both fronts. I think for the McLaren team on track success in Formula One, you've really got to put a lot of the focus, I guess, and credit go towards Andrea. But Zak is the man who put him in that position and has built the whole wider racing organization up to the level that it's at.
Yeah. And of course, we all know Zak Brown for his ability to cultivate the sponsorships, right? That's his. Oh yeah, that's been his forte.
35 American sponsors.
Yeah, it's a huge number, and that is the fuel that drives the engine. Is the marketing dollars and the sponsorships, and the fact that
that's Zak's genius.
Yes, and that's his genius. But the fact that he knows that he can't do it all, for example, and has a guy
good leadership,
and finds a guy like Stella. Zak is way up there right now, and I think his influence,
and deservedly so.
Yes, because we, thinking of just a few years ago, you think Toto Wolff and Christian Horner, and I think you just have to put Zak Brown in that same elite group of
they're world champions currently. So
that's exactly right.
Now we could be having a similar conversation in November or December in at Vegas and Abu Dhabi, saying how could they have let these two hit each other, a la Rosberg Hamilton, or why did they not put team orders? We'll see. It's going to come. It's going to come. Wasn't today.
No, but today's closed it up, hasn't it?
Yes.
3 points now.
Yes.
Just between the top two. I got my maths wrong pre-race, but 3 points.
But Chris, would you agree with me that it's not just a brilliant boyhood dream win for Lando? It was tantamount to if he'd have locked up and gone straight on at Sainte Devote, you could have put the season to bed, almost.
Yes, to be honest. I don't know about put the season to bed,
but you know what I mean. Psychologically,
it would have that would have been a big blow for him. And he has done well to come.
Oh, we lost you.
Oh, lost you, Chris.
To avoid that.
Oh, you're back. You're
back now.
Yep.
Amazing. Who should I blame for that? I can blame the FIA. I went past the FIA hospitality.
Yes.
So I should make sure my Wi-Fi is still off. It's been a fight back for Lando since. I think after maybe Bahrain, that's when it really was manifesting itself, wasn't it? As serious problems that he was having with getting one lap pace out of the car. And the fact that he's now shown that he can do that around the toughest place to do it, where you need the most confidence, and then executed the race. And as you say, that was a big lockup, but I just think that was, in a sense, a small mistake that looked more dramatic than it was. It didn't hurt his tyres too much or anything, did it? So I think he will take a huge amount of confidence from this. And the timing could be great because he can bounce on to the next race as well.
Yeah.
He can go straight on to Barcelona with that momentum.
Yeah.
He actually put a really good quote together talking about how stringing this 3 races together starting this weekend was his plan. And I think that was, sometimes he's a little not lackadaisical, but he sort of tends this sort of shrug off what's in the future because he's trying to be in the present. I get that. But this showed me that he's got eye on the prize. These 3 races matter. I've got to be on it at all 3 of them.
Yeah. All right, guys, let's get a quick break in. And right after these messages, we'll continue with our discussion of the Formula One Monaco Grand Prix. All right, let's check out the YouTube team and see what's happening here. I do not have the comments up. Here we go.
I got it.
All right, here we go. Mike Bowles is here. He made the first corner, so there it is. Yep, he barely made the first corner. He says, "Where's Andy P?" There's Andy. Andy P is joined in later on. Kevin Kelly's here. Bill Rickards here. Tea time. It's after Indy during the Cola Derby. Okay. Kevin Kelly. That 2-stop rule did nothing but hurt our brains. That's for sure. That it did hurt our brains. I'm still in the yes camp on that so far. I'm open to tweakage. TW says, yep.
I wonder if the brain pain will disappear slightly next year in the sense that we've seen it once.
Yeah.
We've kind of got an idea of how it could look, how it could play out. So
yeah, good point.
I think that unknown is what I was the same. I was making a note of every single pit stop being like, wow, what if that leads to something crazy? And then you realize that you don't need to do that for everybody pitting at all moments.
Yeah. TW says, would have been cool if Max had the gap to pit the last lap and roll across the finish. Andy P says, woohoo, Orlando gets it done. Yes. America's biggest McLaren fan, Andy P. Hey, Andy P, I was listening to, I think it was the Race podcast, and they said, and we have a question. It's Andrew P. And I'm like, it's got to be Andy P.
If it was McLaren related, it must have been.
I was right as I was getting out of the car this morning, so I don't know what it was about. But
so, can they do the double today?
Yeah, that's the question, isn't it?
Pato, step up.
I'm super excited.
Well,
all right, well, here we go. Coming back.
Hello, I'm Jenny Gow from BBC F1. You are listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
All right, welcome back. We're talking about the Formula One Monaco Grand Prix. Lando Norris wins the huge race for him. Huge in his career, huge in his season.
And lovely that his parents were there.
Yeah.
And his girlfriend.
His mom and dad. And they said they all ran over right after he won. Of course, that was wonderful. Some other stories I wanted to touch on. Fernando Alonso, I didn't hear power unit issue. He was in the points.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, was that what it was, Chris? Where was he when he dropped out, around 7th or 8th, something like that?
8th, I believe, yeah, because Lewis had jumped them all. So Fernando had started 5th. Actually, no, that means I'm completely wrong on that front. Fernando had started 5th, but I think he lost out to Hadjar in the first round of pit stops, and then Hamilton jumped them both. So I think he's between Hadjar and Ocon, I believe, which would have put him 7th.
Yeah.
But it still would have been points. He would have been annoyed with them because he would have felt that they shouldn't have lost positions. But he was still in the top 10. I've actually just seen him jumping on his scooter and pedaling his way over to the pit lane. So I've followed that direction. He looks happy enough. He doesn't look too down. But I don't know what he's got to do to finally get that elusive first top 10 of the season.
I know. They said it's his worst start to a season in 10 years.
Yeah, and yet,
yes.
As we said at pre-show, he's definitely enjoying this season more than probably any in the last 10 years.
Although he didn't sound like he was enjoying it on the radio. Did you hear him scream?
I can't push!
I was like, right, it's Monaco. You can't.
Well, they gave him a silly. He was right up the
the
backside of one of the other drivers. I can't remember who. But he's like, I can't push when I'm right here.
Yeah.
I did find one thing interesting, and it was alluded to by Leclerc, which was, you don't want to get too close because you overheat. And yet we didn't. That didn't seem to be when they were behind Albon, when they were behind Sainz. That didn't seem to be a problem. But when you are that close, overheating's got to be a factor.
Yeah, you would think
A
for
bit.
sure.
I don't think it was that hot today for that to be such an issue. But the reason it can become one is because you don't have high-speed sections where you get a lot of airflow through.
Mm-hmm.
Do you? It's all low speed, so it's not actually as the amount of air going into the car to cool it is not as high as normal. It's why they bring big brake ducts and things here.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was going to be of the level that we've seen as a problem elsewhere. So that actually surprised me that Charles said that. But I think there was a lot of just teams working out on the fly as well, just thinking, how do we play this? Especially at the front, they just had to make sure they weren't going to get caught out by anyone, and just let it play out. And I really maintain that they were helped by Racing Bulls doing what they did with Liam Lawson backing the pack up. It meant that essentially the whole top 8 could all make both pit stops and be still in the top 8.
Yeah.
They were never under threat from anyone else in the race.
Another way of looking at this is to throw the mandate idea out of the window and say, in a Monaco war of attrition, with all those gear changes and with all those concentration, needed to get round, that was the least amount of attrition I've seen in a Monaco in a long time.
Yeah, just 2 cars, wasn't it? And one was obviously Gasly's collision. Oscar got pretty close to the wall at one stage. That was at Saint Devote, wasn't it? He had a bit of a tank slapper on and got close on the exit at the first corner. Apart from that, you didn't see a lot where you thought a driver was making an error that put them in trouble either. So part of that comes from when they do drive off the pace, which is a shame. But then we saw them picking it up at different times. So, yeah, I thought we'd get more errors, more incidents in that sense.
Hey, Chris, did you happen to hear James Vowell's comments during the broadcast?
I did not. No, sadly in the media center, we don't get to hear those sorts of comments.
Yeah, and Jonathan?
Yeah, he basically said, he was asked about what he thought, and he said, well, we're doing fine. Sainz is holding up the field to help Albon, and then we'll swap, and we'll do that. He said, it's not the way I like to go racing on a Sunday, but you have to understand this has caused the teams to be that way.
Yeah, Brundle did a good job.
Yeah.
He was, when James first came on, he was
kind of angry.
He was irritated.
And
then Brundle asked him, well, what do you think? And then he kind of calmed down and was like, well, look, I get it. I understand why this.
I don't like it.
I don't like it. But it's the same. Basically, he said it. Basically, the same thing we've been saying.
Sorry, guys, I've got to cut you off. I'll tell you, someone
it.
who does like to go racing this way is a man who's got a car in P1 and a car in P3. Zak Brown, you are soaked.
I'm definitely soaked, and I don't think I brought a change of clothes to the circuit, so that's okay. I'm not going to complain.
Who are you sharing a car with to get back to the hotel?
I thought you were going to give me a list.
Good luck.
What a great race, though. What an exciting race, and even though we kind of finished as we qualified, it felt a lot more dramatic than that. You have to tell me you were watching, but from my seat, that was an epic Monaco Grand Prix. A little biased.
It wasn't full of action, but it was full of that kind of tension and unknown, that uncertainty. And I guess for someone with so much stake in it, it must have been. When could you relax?
On the podium, I was pretty chilled. Even then, I was worried about let's get Zach with the champagne. So even then, I knew the war wasn't over. But no, it wasn't. Charles was very quick, and the way Max backed us up. I mean, he drove a great strategic race. And you felt this is Monaco, and Charles is aggressive. So is he going to lunge him? So I would say until you saw Lando gap him a little bit on that last lap, it was nerve-wracking the whole time.
I'm calling BS on Chilled on the podium. Surely that was a childhood dream to stand up there on the Monaco podium as the head of a Formula One team that had just won this race.
It doesn't get any better than that. Now I want to try Indy. I want to try and drink some milk, maybe cover that with some champagne. That probably smell really bad. And then maybe one of these days, Le Mans. But right now we've got a Constructors and Drivers World Championship we're trying to win. So we'll very focused on Formula One.
Yeah, how big a result is this for Lando, getting that win? Because it's the second of the season.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, it puts him and Oscar very close to each other in the championship. And, it's game on. I'm excited to see the boys race.
How long do you leave it before your head totally goes to Indy?
Another couple hours. But, we got to turn our attention to that big race in Indiana here in a couple hours.
Well, go and enjoy the celebrations. I've seen there's a huge bottle of champagne somewhere you were holding before I came and interviewed you, and a massive trophy as well. Do you get to party with the team, or do you just start looking for a TV?
TV. It's shower TV and head to Indianapolis because maybe we'll get lucky and win there and then have some banquet tomorrow night.
I'll tell you what, Indianapolis should look out if Zak Brown walks into that banquet having won the Monaco Grand Prix and Indy 500. I don't know how your head will fit through the door, but that's a compliment.
It won't, but we'll maybe kind of get in there with a hacksaw and take a wall out.
Well, good luck. Cheers, Zak.
Thank you.
He actually gave a little bit of news away then. There is rumor that McLaren could go into hypercar in Le Mans or WEC. And, he kind of said, a bit of Le Mans.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Well, I don't want to get this wrong, but is it no longer a rumor? Did they not announce it?
I was going to say.
All right, okay.
I was going to say.
Well, I've been under a rock, Chris. Sorry.
It's all right. I think they've announced it. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to double check that so that I'm not getting anyone into any trouble.
Don't worry, Jonathan. You'll be ready by September.
Yeah. When September comes, as Green Day would say.
Yeah. When you'll be on the microphones. But
Yes, that's true. I will be calling the race. I should by then know who's in it.
You'll have done your homework.
Can confirm, yes. They're entering WEC in 2027 . So in 2 years.
Okay, so I want,
hypercar.
all right. So
27.
See, that's still a news story.
Yes.
It is. And isn't it funny, though, that his mind even went to that? already?
Yeah.
I was there thinking he's going to be focused on what's happening at Indy. And he's going, one day I could even win Le Mans.
Yeah. Oh, he's a racing guy through and through. And, he's got his mind absolutely set on those goals.
Mm.
And that's got to be inspiring to the drivers, too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You imagine if you have a good career with McLaren in Formula One and then the opportunities that might be afforded to you elsewhere, be that at Le Mans, if it's that point of your career, or if you do want to go and do the 500, they clearly are a front-running team, can run an extra car competitively, as we're seeing with Kyle Larson, and we've seen in the past as well. So, in a sense, why not?
Yeah.
Why not be one of those drivers that would then give themselves an opportunity to do more than just become a Formula One world champion? Because McLaren can kind of offer you it all at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. Can you imagine the lineup they could have for a hypercar for Le Mans at 27?
Wow, yeah.
Just in their Indy and Formula One kind of pool.
Well, I know we're getting off topic slightly here, but you are talking about quality drivers there that have done endurance racing as well, for the majority of them. Lando Norris impressed when he did Daytona as a rookie. He was just about to start his F2 season, then he went there, and he did a really good job alongside Fernando Alonso for United in the LMP2 class. At the same time, you had Pato O'Ward has raced there competitively, and he's won at least one, I think, maybe two. These are drivers with experience of that. And then you think of someone like Piastri, and you feel like he would be adaptable to it, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
There's some drivers you're not sure. With him, you think he could definitely do that job.
Oh, yeah. It really is an interesting time for motor racing.
Encyclopedic knowledge there, Chris. Awesome.
You're calling me sad. You're calling me sad, aren't you, John?
I'm calling you a big, giant motorsport nerd.
Nerd.
I'm calling you.
Yeah, I'll take that. I was because I was there actually, 2018 in Daytona.
He
says yes, 18, and it was a lot of fun. There was a lot of rain, but I just remember Lando standing out as impressive. And I believe we had this chat actually on one of the other shows recently about Lance Stroll, or at least I've had the question about does he really enjoy it? It's like yes, he loves racing. Like at Daytona, he was like having the time of his life when he did it because he was racing alongside a couple of friends and he had no other commitments. So just driving race cars fast, he didn't care about the limelight and the fact it was not Formula One or something. It's just the stuff that goes around it that he really doesn't like, and then he shows that he really doesn't like it. So
I discovered that with Lindblad in New Zealand this year. He's like that too, and it shows on the track. He's just laser focused on the goal.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of social media, I was creating that poll, but Jonathan, you were excited about the blue flags and everything that was going on. What's your take on all that?
As in
during the race when there was lots of complaints about the blue flags, and I was literally putting out that poll, and you were yelling at the TV.
Well, because like I said, the one that got me was Albon. I would say overly holding up Russell and Antonelli, particularly Antonelli, who almost ran into the back of him because he was going as slow as he possibly could and braking earlier than perhaps Antonelli was expecting, and it caused Antonelli to almost hit the curb, but it could have taken them both out and would have changed the face of the race, which would have been very disappointing. And so, in other words, the blue flags are waving, but nobody's taking any notice of it. Nobody's pulling over.
All right, well, let's get a sneaky little break in here real fast, and we will be back after these messages to give you more from the Monaco Grand Prix.
All right, Andy P, you got me. Thank you for being my eyes and ears and brain.
What did he say?
Because they've announced the WEC entry.
Oh,
of course
yeah.
he knows that.
Yeah.
And Joe from
How
Oyster
long
Bay.
was this break? Let's check.
How long we got, Casey?
1:45.
Okay, I'm going to jump off and record because
Okay.
I've got Laurent here and I don't want to hold him up.
Ah, okay.
Go for it.
Great. Awesome,
Thanks.
actually.
Yeah, Joe from Oyster Bay says he's got his Max subscription. Yeah, and if you aren't sure, HBO Max, as it's now called, Max, you'll be able to watch all of Le Mans live, which will be fantastic.
Yeah. Just checking online. Oh, Andy P said that wasn't him on the post.
Yeah, I know.
the
That's
podcast.
funny. There's another Andrew P out there. How
Yep.
about Takuma Sato on pole on row one?
Well, Schwartzman on pole.
I know,
How about
Schwartzman-
that? That's a story.
I know. I wouldn't want to be behind. I wouldn't want Sato behind me in an award for the first quarter of this race, would you?
Oh, Andy P brought up a good point. We were talking about Zak Brown and Andrea Stella. He says Zak put Stella in charge, but you have to sort of thank Fernando Alonso for Stella because they were a package deal at that time.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure I've ever even heard that, Andy. That's pretty good.
That's pretty interesting. Yep, I like that.
I'm gonna have to start listening to Andy's podcast so I can get caught up. Anybody else on here? Mike Bowles. He says, I've always said Alonso has no luck. Well, Alonso said that last week. As you said, he was the unluckiest. Did you see the pro baseball game yesterday? It was a setup by Fox, but it was still good. There was a fan in the stands when his team hit a home run. He came rushing out, had a half a gallon of milk, and poured it all over himself at the baseball game.
That's kind of cool.
It was made for social media. All right,
Yeah,
coming
yeah.
back.
Probably planned.
Hi guys, this is Pierre Gasly and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
There's a growing expense eating into your company's profits. It's your cloud computing bill. You may have gotten a deal to start, but now the spend is sky high and increasing every year. What if you could cut your cloud bill in half and improve performance at the same time? Well, if you act by May 31st, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure can help you do just that. OCI is the next generation cloud designed for every workload, where you can run any application, including any AI projects, faster and more securely for less. In fact, Oracle has a special promotion where you can cut your cloud bill in half when you switch to OCI. The savings are real. On average, OCI costs 50% less for compute, 70% less for storage, and 80% less for networking. Join Modal, Skydance Animation, and today's innovative AI tech companies who've upgraded to OCI and saved. Offer only for new U.S. customers with a minimum financial commitment. See if you qualify for half off at oracle.com/formula. That's oracle.com/formula. All right, Greeny, we're
Yes,
waiting on Chris Medland because
He's getting an
Yeah.
interview for us. Yep.
he's getting an interview with Laurent Mekies, who
Which is the man of the moment.
strategist of the day, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, you gotta hand it to. RB are just. Think about the days of Toro Rosso. You know, they had some limelight back in the day when Vettel was driving for them, and
Yep.
they were successful. But Sauber have always been the nearly men, and sorry, not Sauber, but Toro Rosso.
Yeah. Red Bull Junior team.
Yeah. And to see them basically kicking butt, and both out qualifying Sonoda for a start,
Yeah.
in clean conditions. That's tough on Sonoda, but at the same time, it is what it is, right?
Yeah, Sonoda was really down in his post-qualifying interview yesterday. He did not want to be there, as they are known to be when they're having a bad day. But yeah, good on them.
Yep.
And I wonder, I want to get Chris's take on how much credit Laurent Mekies, how much influence, obviously a lot of influence, but how much, progress has he helped the team with?
Mm-hmm.
You got to give them some credit, them and Red Bull, for. Okay, so they experimented with Lawson. They gave him 2 races in the Red Bull car, which is still absurd in my mind. But
I agree.
the fact that he's not done great, honestly, and who would after having their whole world yanked out from underneath them? Just gas lots and lots of Red Bull drivers on down the list.
Yeah,
right?
just as Lando has fulfilled one of his bucket lists, for Lawson to have made it, especially being from New Zealand, where the entire country is behind you and has watched every bit. He's an absolute celebrity down there, and was playing the celebrity role down in January, sort of visiting tracks and people queuing up for his autograph. I was there, and it's got a. You really must be riding on a wave, and then suddenly 2 races later, the headlines are Arete. That's it. Done.
Hey, Chris, I hear you out there, and we were just talking about Laurent Mekies and his influence on the team and stuff, but I'm assuming you caught up with him.
I did indeed. I just have. I won't lie. I've just wandered over to the Haas garage to work out. I think they're playing a bit of Chris Stapleton in the garage, which is pretty cool. I like that. I like the soundtrack that Haas have for their pack down. Yes, I did speak to Laurent. He was happy. He was very happy, in fact. But I'll also admit that I just didn't get the impression he was getting carried away. This felt like a bit of redemption, I think, in his eyes for Racing Bulls. So if Casey's got it, here's Laurent. Laurent, we're going round to everybody that we interviewed on the grid who were in good positions, and I'm pleased to say that they are still smiling at the end of the race. P6 for Isaac, P8 for Liam. How pleased are you with double points, the double top 8 finish?
Yeah, extremely pleased for the results. Perhaps even more pleased in the way we got that result. Amazing job from Zak and Liam yesterday to put that car in such a good position in qualifying, and then today it was not going to be a boring race. We knew we had a million scenarios to be careful with, and we saw an opportunity to execute something really, really strong as a team. And Liam has been a fantastic team player. Him and Isaac have been controlling the race, going fast when they had to go fast, going slow when they had to go slow. The team have executed a very, very articulated and perfect strategy. And finally, we got a decent bag of points, and therefore it's good to be back in the fight for the championships as well.
You were the first team to really create that gap and get 2 pit stops out the way with Isaac. Was that always plan A? Was that always the first intention, or was that reacting to the way the race had started?
It was one of our preferred scenarios. We were not sure we would be in a position after lap 1 to be able to execute it, but yes, that was one of our preferred scenarios, and we chose to commit to it quite early on. But we knew we had to stay flexible if something was happening during the race, and we adapted it slightly as the race evolved, and it's a good result.
How hard was it to convince Liam to do that so early? Because surely that puts him at risk.
I tell you what, Liam understood straight away. Already last night when we worked through the tens of scenarios, we obviously spent a bit more time on that one, and he understood straight away. And this morning we spoke, and in his mind there was not a single doubt or a single slowing down on that. He was fully on board. That's a huge asset for the team to have drivers like that with Liam and Isaac who know it's a team sport, and they put their talent at the service of a very, very nice team job.
And you've been very quick pretty much everywhere with this car, but it hasn't always translated into results. So, A, how proud are you that it now has? And B, can you continue this momentum heading to Spain next week?
I think the guys deserved it. We didn't score as many points as we would have wanted. We've made some mistakes. We've hit some circumstances, but we never gave up. The group keeps growing, and it's very good that on a complex day like today, we are able to come up with an extremely strong execution. So now, Monaco is Monaco. We are not expecting to fight for P6 in Barcelona next week, but we know the car is able to take points at every race weekend if you do everything perfectly, and it's never going to be with some margin. It's going to be with a few hundreds, a few thousands faster than whoever is the best on the midfield. So, we came from Imola. We said it's a lot of work for 2 points. And it's going to be probably that way for the next few races.
Well, just very finally, I'm going to put a couple of hats on that you've worn, because you've worked for multiple teams, but you've worked for the FIA as well, so you understand the sport as a whole. What did you make of the show that was put on today with the 2 stops? Do you think it's improved Monaco? Were you happy with the way people went about racing?
I think it's definitely an improvement in terms of the show we showed to the people, and last year was very unfortunate with the early red flag. Really killed the racing, and it's probably, even without the red flag situation of last year, it's probably a better show than a traditional typical Monaco 1 stop. So I think it's a positive. I don't think at the time where we decided it, we exactly anticipated the various tricks and caveat that was coming with it. But overall, I think it's very positive.
Wow. Well done today, mate. Most of all, enjoy if you get any celebrations tonight, and we'll see you in Spain.
Thank you. See you in Spain. Thank you.
Forget the points. Forget finishing 8th. That comment from Laurent Mekies backing his driver Liam Lawson is huge. He's had nobody in his corner, and I think the more I look at Lawson, the more I realise he's very much a man alone in that Red Bull squad, whether he likes it or not. He doesn't have a Mark Webber in his corner like Piastri, but he's got Laurent, and Laurent Mekies realises that and has come out to international media and said that, which is, I talked to Liam. He's a team player, and long may it continue. So that's when Helmut Marko hears that, or Christian hears that,
Yeah, that's a good point. When they hear it. Yeah.
Well, there's all sorts of rumors of Hadjar even replacing Tsunoda. So the game isn't over with Red Bull by any means. Go ahead, Chris.
I'd be surprised at that latter scenario unfolding, just because I believe there's clauses in that Honda contract that says Yuki has to stay in for the season, I think. But admittedly, contracts had to be broken, aren't they? That's why there's been so much movement. I think with Liam, I'm going to admit something, Johnny Green, that you were not around for last week.
Go on.
But after Imola, what were you doing last weekend? Where were you?
I was actually at a Formula 3 race. I was at FR, American, in Road America.
A likely story. While you were doing that, we were discussing multiple items, and Mr. Massengale brought up the topic of, do we need to start asking, is Liam Lawson safe at Racing Bulls, because of the way results have been going?
Yeah.
And we all agreed that, he'd been harshly treated, he deserved more time, but he couldn't afford too many more weekends where he seemed to have been a bit unlucky or he was a bit down. And I think that's actually what makes this result so big for him.
Oh, it's huge.
As you flagged, like the team, happy with that. He's shown that he will follow what they want, even when he's fighting for his future, but then that he'll also deliver perfectly. And that's a big result for him. It's a bit of a shame, actually, I couldn't spot him himself. That I've put myself in the pit lane for the rest of the show, because that's where I've got a few of the team bosses, but the drivers are not down here anymore. They're over in the TV pen and then into their driver rooms behind the harbour in the other part of the paddock. So you had to pick one spot or the other, and I've picked a different one. But I did want to make a comment. Sorry, I know I'm just hogging the mic a second.
No, you go, man.
To do with what Laurent Mekies said there about the two-stop, that is a very valid point I hadn't actually thought about. So he only made me kind of reconsider it. Yes, that wasn't far from a classic. But what that rule has done is prevent us ever getting what we got last year again. So last year, with the red flag right at the start, everyone pits.
John's happy. Somebody agrees with him.
Yeah, literally nothing happened. Sorry, John, if you'd mentioned it and I was
No,
away
but
with
it's
fairies.
what he's been saying all race.
Yeah, so there's no danger of that. And as long as that can't happen, then it is an improvement. It could still be better, but look at Imola. We talked all the way through our pre-race show about how hard it was to overtake there. And then suddenly we got a great race with loads of overtaking. If you get the right combination of tyre degradation, cars out of position or in position, timing of incidents, it can create a great race. But at the same time, the exact same track with the exact same drivers and the exact same cars, if those items don't all come together, can create a terrible one. So what we now have here could well give us some crackers in the future. This weekend wasn't one of them, but I still do think it was a positive step.
Yeah. I said that, Chris, because I went back last night and watched the race from last year, and it was nothing happened.
Trouble sleeping.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what I did was I just fast forwarded for the last hour, and nothing changed. I didn't miss a single thing. And in fact, I even went to the recap, the written recaps by you, Medland, and other people, and there was nothing. There's nothing. But Chris, you brought up something else that I want to bring back up, and that is, look, we have 24 races. We don't want the same thing over and over, right? And we want the history that we have in Monaco. Yeah. Yes. The comments are, the cars are too big for Monaco. It's the same old thing, blah, blah, blah. But it's still...
Sorry to cut you off. I'm going to get one question to Isaac Hadjar as he walks down the pit lane and I dodge some kit. Isaac, how proud are you of P6 in Monaco?
I'm proud of myself for qualifying. The team did a really good job yesterday. especially today. We have a double point finish, so yeah, really really brilliant effort. Strategy was mega. So I'm happy about my boys today. Yesterday I did a fantastic job, I have to say.
I think a lot of people thought you did too. And what about the team game? You helped your teammate, he helped you. Was this kind of like the perfect execution from both of you?
I mean, to be honest, I haven't really helped Liam. He completely helped me. That's more the case. But, in the end, it made his race better. And I think we maximized everything today. We had a few doubts on strategy a few races ago. We didn't make the right calls, but today was perfect.
Well, it was indeed. And the whole team is waiting for you to go and celebrate. So congratulations. Well done this weekend. We'll see you in Spain.
Nice to grab him.
Mega.
He's got the most momentum of all the rookies right now.
Oh,
Antonelli had the momentum early, but now he's got the most momentum.
There is nothing more scary than a very confident racing driver. And now, putting Australia aside, it's well over. He's just got more and more confidence as the weeks have gone on.
Yeah. All right, let's snag our last break. You're listening to Speed City F1. Back after these messages. All right, let's see.
I've got something we can talk about here in the break, but we should also talk about it on air, which is, how about this now? The team standings, McLaren Mercedes, 319 compared to Mercedes, 147.
Double.
So you can almost say that they're sailing right now. But then look at second through fourth, 147 for Mercedes, 143 for Red Bull, and Ferrari on 142. That's an almighty battle.
It sure is. By the way, did you notice
Big step forward for Ferrari, that. Big step forward. They were not really quite in that fight, were they? Until maybe this weekend, second and fifth.
Yeah, and if you add back those double DNF points from the beginning of the season, they'd be in second. Hey, did you guys notice? They changed what they call the constructor standings now officially?
Teams.
They're called team standings. That was early this year, I think, at the beginning of the year, maybe, I guess, Chris.
It's actually, that's a very good way of using semantics, as it were, because it's the same thing.
Yeah.
But not many people understand what that means, constructors.
I know. That's exactly why they did. Chris, when did they officially do that? Do you know?
Same time they announced McLaren.
I still believe, though, that from the FIA's point of view, that it would be called the Constructors' Championship in terms of the trophy that they're going to get is the Constructors' Championship trophy. I believe. So I need to check that. That might have been. Are you looking at the official Formula One website?
Yes.
Or is that the FIA?
That's
I think that might be.
I'm going to look on the FIA
right
now.
Simplify it, I think. Yeah, I think that just might be a way of. If you think of constructors, might seem a bit confusing to fans.
Exactly.
And they can call it teams. Even if officially it's a constructors title. So I do wonder if that's what that changes. I've got to also trying to keep letting you guys see through my eyes when we're chatting away on radio, but I'm still parked outside Racing Bulls and are about to do a big team photo.
There you go.
Hi, this is Gene Haas, and this is Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
Welcome back. And a quick word from our sponsor. We have Oracle, and Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, OCI, can help you cut your cloud bill in half if you act by May 31st. See if you qualify for half off at oracle.com/formula. And we were talking during the break about the constructors' standings, and McLaren has a huge lead now. We're only 8 races in. So that's a big lead now, isn't it,
double.
Granny?
Yeah, they're not done and dusted, but they are a long way ahead.
319 for them, for McLaren, and then 147. So more than half.
That's a mountain to climb.
More than
for
double
the factory team. Yeah.
Yeah. Of course.
But what's good is second through fourth.
Yeah, 147, 143, 142.
That's
Mercedes, Red Bull, and Ferrari.
Yeah.
And Williams, 54, double what Haas has.
Yeah, and then to be honest, that's sort of bubbling up to be a good fight too, because Williams are well ahead, but Haas keep chipping away. And Ocon, another good result today, and as you saw from Laurent Mekies, Racing Bulls, 22. They're only 4 behind Haas now.
Yeah, that part has tightened up, absolutely. And everybody's got points now. Sauber, Alpine 7 and Kick Sauber 6. And Aston Martin.
Not every driver, though, yet.
No.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
What we wait for? Alonso. Is it just those two now?
Could be.
Yeah, let's see.
Other than, obviously, Doohan's not going to get a chance. Oh, Colapinto won't have any yet either, will he?
No.
Yeah, let's see. Yep. Also, Doohan. Well, yeah, of course. Hello.
Yeah, he's not going to get that chance.
Yeah.
I was just before we came back from the break, I was starting painting a bit of a picture, but they've just had a team photo done at Racing Bulls where they've had everybody out. And right now, Laurent Mekies is talking to both drivers, both Liam Lawson and Isaac Hadjar. And I saw the pit boards that they used for the photo for Liam. It said Lawson, and underneath it said teamwork. And
Interesting.
And as we just heard from Isaac, he does value what his teammate has done for him today. So that also was an interview I did. I had to climb over an Armco barrier during the middle of that. So I hope the microphone carried on picking up everything that was being said. But the logistics of Monaco are crazy that you end up doing a bit of an assault course while you're trying to talk to people. So I'm going to keep myself in range because we'll see if we can speak to Liam. I know it's a very Racing Bulls heavy show if we do this, but
they deserve it. That's cool.
It's been a big day.
Yeah, and that's a really, it's such the season to watch these guys go through the highs and lows. I mean, Lawson, as much as anybody, we talk a lot about Oscar Piastri. I mean, Lando Norris right now, with his highs and lows. But man, Liam Lawson's had maybe the biggest roller coaster. So that
no question.
But that's great that they put that on the board there, teamwork for
Teamwork.
him.
Yeah,
on
no,
his.
and like I said, I've got a soft spot for him because I followed his career so closely, and I know the pressure he's under. And I actually do believe, like all of the guys who are rookies this year, they're all very, very good. And I've started to take a much closer interest in F2 now because of that fact, and that who's the next, diamond in the rough.
Yep. Hey, I noticed something.
Well,
go ahead, Chris.
Sorry, just on that topic, one of the ones you've got to watch out for, isn't it, is Arvid Lindblad, as you mentioned earlier, his
absolutely,
name.
yeah.
But he's the one that once he turns 18 will become an option for Red Bull to put in the Racing Bulls car if they wanted to. So that's why it's imperative that these two currently in those seats do perform because there will be someone waiting in the wings. And Lindblad's been having a good year. He should have been on the podium in the feature race today, but he got himself a pit lane speeding penalty that dropped him down to 5th, I think, in the end, with the timing of the red flag and the way that played out. So,
and by the way, having spent that 6 weeks with him, I think August is when he turns 18, just before Monza.
Yes, you are correct. And that is very true. It's definitely. It was. I was looking at it. It seemed similar to Kimi Antonelli, actually.
Yeah.
It was. He was September, wasn't he? So he had to wait till after the summer break to be able to do anything. But Kimi could then.
So speaking of Formula 2, Chris, you had the interview in the pre-race show that you did with Jack Crawford, the American in Formula 2, who's moved up to 5th in the championship. And you think, okay, that's good, that's 5th. But if you look at the momentum, he did not score any points in the first 5 races, including sprint.
Yeah, a lot of
and
bad
feature.
luck, yeah.
A lot of bad luck and a lot of good luck today or this morning. But yes, so no points in the first 5 and then big points in the last 5. So, yeah, he had a win in the feature race. No, not a win, but he had 20 points, 10, 8, 5, and 13 in the last 5 races. That is
he got a 5th in the sprint and then won the feature. And
feature this time around, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yep.
And if you look at the championship standings, he's in contention now.
Absolutely. Well, with the momentum that he's got is what I'm getting at, right?
Yeah.
So very exciting.
Sad to report that Mr. Lawson's gone upstairs to the debrief. So I'm not going to hear his thoughts at this moment, but we'll see if we can grab him over the weekend in Spain, because the good thing about it being a triple header and another race next weekend.
You'll see him a couple of days,
we'll get a chance and see if we can just get a line out of him or two. And
I cannot help but think of Cadillac.
Yeah.
I know. You know what I mean? I mean, ever since Mario and Michael started talking about this team, that and they started saying, banging the drum that we're going to have an American driver. Well, that has softened a little bit. They're now saying things like we're going to hire on merit and all that, which I think is smart. But you can't help but think about Cadillac when Crawford's doing well.
Yeah, and listen, he's reserved for Aston Martin at the moment. Maybe he'll play that role for them with a Bottas and Perez combo.
Yeah.
That is something that does make sense to me. I don't actually have it. Well, I do have some insight. I had a bit of a chat with someone from the team yesterday, I think it was. And the way they're looking at things is they have had lots of preliminary talks with lots of drivers, and they were just listing them at that point.
Yeah.
We're talking, Perez, Bottas, Joe, Drugovic, Mick Schumacher, Crawford. There was someone else who's had fairly recent experience in Formula One, and I can't remember who it is. I've got Ollie Bearman stalking me back towards the paddock. Ollie, how was that?
Tiring, more for the boredom than the physical aspects, but a bit of a weekend of missed opportunities really, because the car was really good, but after that grid penalty on Friday, I think P12 was really the maximum we could have achieved today, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think you're the biggest mover actually in that race. You went forward 8 positions from your starting spot, but what did you think of the 2-stop strategies, the way that people approached them, the way that we had drivers backing up? Are you a fan of something more happening here, or do you think that was a bit tough to be part of?
Yeah, I don't think it was a good look, honestly. Obviously, I didn't see everything, but it didn't seem like the best look for the race. But I think at some point we just need to understand that Monaco is not about the race, it's about qualifying. That's where the thrill of Monaco will always lie. That's what we love, and Sunday might always be a procession until the cars get smaller, but that's not Monaco's fault.
I guess fair. That was so succinctly and well put.
I know.
For a driver. You're meant to be far more stressed about things, but Ollie, thanks for that. I was also trying to hear you over the noise from Raskas, but go well in Spain. We'll see you in a couple of days' time. So thanks for your time. I used that as my ability to get back over the pit lane there as well. I managed to not get stopped by different people because you're with an F1 driver, so they don't
stop you.
Nicely played.
Nicely played. You're a star. Hey, you're right. That was the line of the day. He summed it up beautifully.
Yeah, I think so. All right, guys. Well, what do you get? One more thought, Chris?
No, I was just actually agreeing. But as I'm well aware, we're also running out of time because I've been waffling on. But not a terrible race, was it? Come on, there's potential there, and
no.
Hopefully, we get another fun one next week.
Yep, that's right. The third of a triple header. All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in, and thanks to Chris Medland, Jonathan Green, and we'll get Bob Varsha back next week, I hope. And of course, Chris Medland and I will be doing Wheel to Wheel on Wednesday. So check us out. Thanks everybody. We'll talk to you next week.
Happy trails.